Welcome to the Silverlake Priestess Podcast. I'm Jaime Black, and I'm here today with Aubrie Davis, and we're going to talk about activism. So, thank you for joining me here on the show.
Of course, anything for old time pal.
Yes, we've known each other for quite a while now. So, Aubrie and I met back in my waitressing days when I was working at Swingers in Hollywood, and it was a diner that had all sorts of vegan items, which is why Aubrie would have been eating there in the first place.
I mean, which is funny because now it seemed in today's age that it didn't really have that many. It's just that it had some, right? Like at that time, it's like it had more than one option, and it wasn't a salad. So.
True. But it had more options than so many other places, and even so many other of the vegan restaurants. They kind of just had crap. They just kind of, Swingers they had quinoa, and they had, I remember I would get like steamed broccoli, and they had these, those like little veggie patties, and they had like vegan dishes and all this like stir fry, and everything also wasn't tofu, even though you could get that too. But yeah.
Oh, you're cute. You're talking about quinoa and salads, and I'm thinking like, oh, that was my vegan
nachos.
Where
you would get the nachos.
That hardcore soy shake? Are you killing me? Oh my god.
Oh, right.
The best. But that was I mean that must have been like 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah. It was. It was quite a while ago. So, so since I've been doing this podcast, I live in LA, so I have had the opportunity to meet so many amazing people actually through waitressing. I talk a bunch of shit about like slave jobs and all of that, but I really loved waitressing, and I really got to meet everyone. And so on this podcast, I've had the opportunity to interview these different people, on the show. If this is your first time watching, it's a spiritually based podcast. I talk to people about their spiritual practices. I've interviewed a lot of women that are witches, priestesses, psychics, mediums, musicians. I've had a poet on the show. And I'm going to get into interviewing like all my musician friends as well, because it's just all part of like channeling spirit and being in touch with your intuition. Mm-hmm. And we actually took a class. You were in the first class I took of Naha's. You were in that class.
I was a big fan of Naha, big fan of my beautiful healer woman that I don't know where I would be without.
Yeah, love her. She's great. So you're in the right place. Got a little bit of some witchiness going on over here in Aubrie.
It's definitely an avenue that people don't know about me. It's not something that I really put out in the world in social media. I do identify as a witch, but it's definitely not something that, unless you're very close to me, because I don't have to tell you that it's became just a huge trend and social media hashtag that it makes me a little nervous to like post about that stuff, but it's something that I practice, and would be happy to talk to you about.
We would love to hear about that. I do have something to say about the trends, though, is that I think I was just talking about this on the last podcast with Sal. Probably about 15 years ago, maybe longer than that, 20 years ago, yoga was a trend. And it was one of the things that people were just kind of bitch about, yoga. But I totally believe that the evolution of consciousness and what we're experiencing now has so much to do with so many people going to yoga because it was a trend, because it was a workout, not even because it was a spiritual practice, but, everyone just going. And it does, it involves your body. It opens up your body and your chakras and all of that. And I totally think that there's reasons for trends. Either there's a message coming through like a certain group of people, whether like it's an age group or, a certain identity of people. And I feel like that they're coming in with a message. And so, the thing about the witch trend, I was really, I'm really rebellious. I'm my Aquarius rising. I'm a Scorpio, but I think it's the Aquarius rising that makes me that way. It's like, I'm really into something, especially if I'm kind of the only one that's into it. Like, not that I was the only witch, but probably about 15 years ago, witch wasn't like the big thing. And so when I dyed my hair black, and I would just be in like my all black playing my show. And I remember this one girl was just like, oh, I don't really mean to like say the wrong thing, or like, I don't mean to be rude, but you kind of look like a witch.
Like,
So,
great,
and
thank you for the compliment.
you think? So then, as it started getting really trendy, I kind of moved over into the priestessing aspect of things. And that's, of course, like super trendy as well. But I'm like, those are the old school witches. Those are just like, that's really back in the day. But so anyway, the thing about witchiness and magic and all of that being trendy nowadays is that people are becoming more aware of how they can be more responsible with, well, at least manifesting what it is that they're trying to manifest. And Harry Potter, this was another thing too. I'm like, Harry Potter is the Harry Potter series and the movies, it's responsible for my business. Like when I started doing readings in my business and all of that, I'm like, this is happening because of that. I mean, it's just, anyway, I just think it's great. I love it. And then I can buy my black dresses with the hoods everywhere. I mean, look at companies like Killstar and Restyle. I'm like, yes, it's everything I've ever wanted.
I'm totally here for it. And I love to talk about that stuff. Anyone who knows me personally knows this is not a surprise to them. They know this. They know that I've been into this for a long time.
Oh yeah, hot topic.
It's just yes, okay, decade of my life. But it's just something that for me personally, I choose not to talk about a lot on social media because it started to get the questioning that I would get. I'm just like not here for it. I'm just like, I don't want to be asked. Like, there's resources for that. I'm not that resource. I'm your activist resource. I'm not your witch resource.
Which is actually why we have you here. So I'll just do a little short insight for everyone. We got on the phone the other day because I was like, okay, I get on the phone with everyone just to be like, let me just tell you how it's going to go. I don't script any of this. I'm only ever interviewing anyone that like I'm interested in and that I actually have questions for myself, or there's specific things that I'm like, can we please share this information with the audience? And so anyway, her and I just went like on just crazy, it was just crazy, like tangenting, talking about so many things. So it's happening already, but we have you here. I have you here. I wanted to have you on the podcast even before this year. And even you're someone that I would always talk about, you live with such integrity. People, everywhere always just talking about their opinions about this and bitching about that and all these things. But do people really live their life in line with their belief systems, especially when it comes down to like caring about animals and being vegan or not, or a vegetarian or not, or what grocery store that you shop at? And so I always reference you. I'm like, I just really know one, total like for real activist. And then I know, a couple other people that like come close. And anyway, I just have a lot of like honor and respect for the way you are and the way that you live your life. Absolutely. And then with this past year and all of the activism that was happening, that was like up for people to be able to be participating in, you've been like so active and sharing so much and educating so much. So then I absolutely wanted to have you here and talk about it. For people who are interested in what you do, but also for people who may be interested in activism and have never taken those first steps and don't really know how or what it is. And there's also all kinds of different types of activism. There's different ways to be involved. And so anyway, we're going to hear all about this from Aubrie.
We're going to do it. It's my most favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah.
My most favorite thing to talk about. I'm here for it, for any questions. And I definitely am the friend who has, pulled people to their first march or their first rally or their first protest. And it really is, about finding your lane. Everyone can do something. And I'm very passionate about, we need more people doing one thing than a very few trying to do everything. And so everyone has something to give. You just have to find out what that passion is and do it. Like, I think, people, there's a stigma around activists. Like, you have to be a certain person, do a certain way, and do it, like a set of rules. And I don't subscribe to that ideology.
Awesome. Why don't we start with you telling us what your definition of activism is?
No, we talked about this.
I did tell her I was going to ask her this question.
You did, and I can't. It's an individual belief for what it is for you. I always come back to, my latest book club, we are reading Black Power. And one of my favorite questions to ask people, especially when it's around these type of things, is what radicalized you? Because I think it gives a window into where someone is or where they came from. And when I think about that sort of idea, I always come back to the Alice Walker quote. And she says, activism is the rent I pay for living on this planet. And that's kind of, I can't think of anything better. I just think it's for me, activism is my responsibility, and it's definitely my sacred duty to show up in every aspect of my life to make sure that I am giving back to just the larger sort of world and universe.
Absolutely. What was the what did you say? What radicalized you?
Yeah, that's a question that I ask a lot in our groups, is what radicalized me. So you want to
ask you that question? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of a trick question when I ask it in groups, because I never have one answer. It's funny because I'll usually go first to sort of like ease people into being vulnerable and opening them up. And I always go, okay, well, for me, it's not one thing. It was a cascade of different things in my life. And I think it started with growing up with gay moms in the late 80s and early 90s. During that time, I was living in Victorville. I remember instances of people, yelling faggot and dyke at our house, pissing on our doorstep. Like, I was 7, you don't forget that stuff. And then, a little while later, everyone remembers Prop 8 in California. For those people not in California, it was around marriage equality. Everyone remembers Prop 8, but before Prop 8, when I was in high school, there was Prop 22. And I did a lot of campaigning for Prop 22 because I had gay moms. So I wanted, their union to be recognized by the state, and it didn't pass. That was mid-90s, so if you think about that time span of how much longer it took, it was another brick.
Wow.
It was another brick in what radicalized me. And then my last year of high school was Columbine. And that was my big first organizing event. It hit very close to me. After that happened, I was called Trench Coat Mafia. Speaking of dressing all in black and looking all weird, that was definitely me in high school. And so I organized a city event around gun violence when I was, I don't know, it was probably when I was like 17, and mental health. And it was a really big deal because the school came down on me and didn't sanction it. And so then I went to the school board, and I was going to school board meetings for months after this event happened. It was my first real introduction into organizing and the machine trying to kibosh that and having other plans. So, that was another brick, right, that radicalized me. I also grew up, I'm a white woman, but I grew up in a city in Southern California that during the time was somewhere between only 5 to 11% white. So I was a minority. I grew up mostly with Asian and Latinx folks. That definitely radicalized me because I saw what was done to them, right? I saw racism every day. The teacher that really shifted my life was a Black man. That radicalized me. I became vegetarian when I was 13. I became vegan in my early 20s. You know, I'm almost 40 years old, so that's more of my life being into animal rights than not at this point. Growing up with trans friends since I was in high school, with sex workers, like I never have to, when all these things started to come really into the mainstream, you know, in the last couple of years, there was a lot of like talk about ideas, and I never had to put a theory to it because I have trans friends. I would talk to them about what they needed, right? I don't have to think about what these people want or what they need or what is in crisis for them, because these are my people, you know. That radicalized me. And then the last 5 years, I worked on the Bernie campaign, and I traveled all over the country and protested at the DNC, and that was another brick. So I think it's just my never wavering to do the right thing. That every day I think radicalizes me on that down the road. Radicalizes me down the road, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Is it ever scary? Because I think that's something that people deal with. You're talking about all these bricks that have been laid, so you've been growing into it for such a long period of time, but someone who hasn't grown up exposed to any of those things, and someone who's grown up, you know, where everything's been really kind of like safe and vanilla, and you know, it's like even just the idea of going to a march is scary.
Yeah, interesting. That's interesting. I've never thought that, actually. Yeah, for me, it's not scary. I think, and I guess it is just I understand what you're saying. I understand how it could be scary for someone, you know, especially over last summer and having to deal with the police in a real way, again, you know. But I guess because I've been in that, I guess I don't see it as scary. I just see it as like, oh, this is just something that you have to deal with when you're in this stuff. It's interesting. I'll give this example. You know, a lot of people, of course, because of George Floyd's death and BLM becoming into like, again, like another focus, I guess, because obviously like they didn't form last summer, but them becoming more in focus again. I always tell people, like, I've been in all sorts of different communities across the board, you know, like trans rights, queer rights, racial justice, animal rights. And I never feel the amount of love that I feel at a Black Lives Matter, like, event or general meeting, because it's really rooted in this ideology of love, you know? And so I guess that for me gives me the courage to go out in the streets, and I don't feel afraid because I know who my comrades are in the street, and I know that we protect each other. And so I just I'm like, hey, if you're curious, come with me. Come with me to an organizing meeting. Come with me to an action. And you'll see that there's ways to combat that fear and actually feel really empowered when you know what your rights are.
That's what's awesome about you. I mean, if I have questions about what's going on when it's voting time or even the summer, I was like, okay, well, where are you going? And like, what are the types of things that are going on? And of course, you always had like a list of all of these different things that were going on and what you were going to. Tell us about how you educate yourself.
Interesting. And so, I mean, so many different ways. I think Number one, I think self-help in like the larger sense is really imperative for an activist. There's no way I could do the work that I do without that self-work, and that is anything from, you know, therapy. I've had the same therapist for 5 years, and I honestly, I don't know where I would be without her. She's helped me so much, especially managing high anxiety, like say last summer. Books. I would really love people to start reading books again.
Oh yeah, well, you have a book club.
I do. I run, I call it like self-help. We do all sorts of things. I've done like workbooks, you know, where we've met once a week for 3 months. But currently, like I mentioned earlier, we're doing Black Power because last year I took Melina's Abdullah, who is Black Lives Matter LA co-founder, her Black Power class. And after this book, I was like, oh, not only does every person need to read this, but every white person especially needs to read this. So yeah, that's the one we're doing right now. But I really believe in learning about the past, so we're better educated to know what to do in the future. Like, so we don't make the same mistakes. So we can look and be like, oh, that didn't work. So instead of wasting time doing that same exact thing and repeating the same exact lesson, let's not do that. Let's think of smarter tactics. And I think books are underrated. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, art is so important, right? In movements, music, and film and television, they can be very, very impactful. But I just think personally, when I talk to my friends in the real world, reading has really taken a back seat to a lot of that entertainment. And there's so much knowledge in books. Read books.
Well, of course, it's just, because the phone, it's like people are spending so much time, being sucked into that. I mean, it's designed that way. Hello. But that is what happens. It's just hours evaporate, and the attention, looking at a book, you already have to know that you enjoy reading for that to like be a draw for you. We were talking about like the different types of activism and stuff the other day, and so you were involved in so many of them. What's your favorite?
I live for direct action. Like, put me with the people, put me out in the streets, put me doing the things. I feel the most useful and I feel the most invigorated. But it's not the only thing. You can't do direct action without smart organizing and planning. And so, those are just as important. The meetings, the calls. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Like, don't get me wrong. Over last summer, LA had 100,000 people march in the streets. And while that's very powerful, and while it makes a big statement, like, where does that lie in like making real change? And the one example I use that people don't like, but I love telling this story, is the January that he who shall not be named, 45, was put into office, was the first women's march. Everyone remembers that. I was not here in Los Angeles. I was in DC there for all of this going down. And but I was watching Los Angeles very closely because it's my hometown. I'm born and raised here, which is pretty rare. And LA had the biggest women's march with like 750,000 people, which is, it's great and awesome, and kudos. However, that, that same year, just weeks after this 750,000 amount of people went out and marched in the streets, we had a local election here, and less people voted in that election than were at the Women's March in LA. And you know who was up for re-election on that ticket was our Mayor Eric Garcetti, which, you know, not a big fan of him and his policies and the lack of shit he's fucking done for our city. And people don't even know that. When I bring this up, people don't even know that that happened weeks after this amount of people went out and protested. Like, I'm all for a good protest. I think it's meaningful, and it definitely gives a lot back when you're out in the streets. It does, and it shows solidarity. And there's all sorts of reasons that I won't get into about like why protesting is important, because I very much believe in it.
We
However,
can hear those reasons. We can hear them.
I know, but I don't want to get away from the moral of the story. Yes. Moral of the story is, you know, it should have anything you decide to do should have a clear goal. What is your goal? What are you trying to do? And I always would say, like, around this, you know, that was 2017. I always said, like, what all those people should, you know, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, all those people did X, Y, and Z? There should be a purpose for your action. And so what was really cool for this last election, Black Lives Matter LA, what they did, you know, we were there every Wednesday protesting to get our corrupt DA, Jackie Lacey, out of office. 3 or 4 weeks, I can't remember how many it was now, after the protest, you know, we'd have our little rally, we would march to the ballot box with our ballot, and people would drop off their ballot. Now that, to me,
that's awesome.
Smart. Mobilize your people with a very specific goal. So, you know, there's all different types of things that you can do. I just think it should be smart, and it should have a very, like, what are you trying to do with your action or protest or etc. As long as you have that, then I think you're in the right headspace, I think.
Well, this is why we need you. I was just saying to her before we went live here, I really think that you should have a program that people can take, you know, with you, that you are teaching people how to be activists and the different types of activism and how to get involved, because you've been involved for so long and you also have the energy that you have. You're educated, and then you're passionate. You have emotions about all of these things, and so it drives you, and you're really smart. And then now you've had experience with it, so you see, like, this doesn't work, this works. I mean, you've been doing it for so long, but there's so many people that were really only just activated this past summer. And then,
which I'm about. We need everyone in the game. We need everyone to find their lane, and we need to go hard. Like, you know, there's been a lot of shade, you know, going around of just like, oh, you woke up and like found out racism existed last year. That's unfortunate. But my sort of idea around that is like, great, you're awake now. Let's get to work. I want more people involved. I want more people to take their power back. I want more people to realize that they've been lied to. You know, I want more people to realize that the system is set up this way. And I want them to take that power back in all sorts of different ways in which they can. You know, every choice you make is a form of activism. It's funny you bring up the grocery store story. Do you want to tell that story? I love it.
Yeah. Well, I remember, so there's a store called Lawson's, and there's one that took over the location of my favorite health food store, you know, forever, over in Los Feliz. And so of course it like took its place. And so I was already in the practice of going there. And then I remember, gosh, you were posting, we were on Facebook, I guess, and you were posting about the money that Lawson's was giving towards not allowing gay marriage to happen, and, you know, just money that they were putting in that direction, and that you were not shopping. Yep. You were not shopping at Lawson's. And
nope, not doing it.
And so that's what I was just saying to her. I'm like, even just, the way that you will inconvenience yourself. And so, that's a conversation that we can have, but make it, difficult for you, not go to the local grocery stores. I mean, I feel like that's how it is for people in vegetarianism and veganism. I mean, if people had to really kill the things that they were eating, because everybody that I know has animals and cats and dogs, and like, if you had to kill that animal of yours and then eat it, I mean, just think it would be very different experience for people. And so at some point, somebody can come to a realization of that and be like, okay, also it's trendy. I'm going to be vegetarian for now, or I'm going to be vegan for now. But it becomes, you have to arrange your life around it. And it can become difficult after a while, especially if you don't like keep the focus. And you just get into, well, I want to eat this. I mean, I am guilty of that, and eat this ice cream, and but I want to have cheesecake. And it's like, okay, well, I went, all these years, but like I had this, so now I'm going to have that. And then for a lot of people, definitely extends over into eating animals. And anyway, it's not easy, and it's designed that way. And that was part of the conversation that we were having. It's like, and so many things are bad, right? So many things are bad. So you're shopping at Starbucks, you're buying gas. Do you go to McDonald's? Like, what else do you do? Just all these things that are part of. This is just a really, really side note, but people, I sell essential oils, and every once in a while, I'm never pushing anything on anyone, but people are just like, I don't like the structure in which what people are getting paid. And I'm like, do you go into Rite Aid and like go through each one of these products and these companies and actually research who are they and what are they doing in the world? You probably do, but people don't. They don't want to think about that kind of stuff.
I'm a researcher, Jamie. I'm a researcher. Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on this. Right. Lassen's, fuck them, still fuck them. I don't shop there. Why? Because like I said, I grew up with gay moms. I lost one of my moms in 2012. And I will, to the day I die, be fighting for queer rights. To the day I die, because the mom that I lost was not my blood biological mom. I'm the most like her. And I wouldn't be who I am without her. And so, yeah, I will be, to the day I die, fighting for queer rights, because that's part of who I am, It's part of where I came from, it's part of my story. And so, yeah, I will not shop at Lassen's because, let's be real, we live in a capitalist society, and, I declare myself an unapologetic anti-capitalist abolitionist. For a couple of reasons. I think those words are very tarnished. I think they scare people. I think that it's really like a hard pill to swallow, and I'm a privileged white woman, and so if anyone should be saying it, I should be saying it to destigmatize that.
Can you tell us what that means?
Yes, but let me get back to the Lassen story. I think that, once you make the choice, so follow the money, right? Because we live in a capitalist society, kind of the only way to fuck them is to hit them where it hurts, and that's in their money, in their revenue. And so that's why I continue not to shop there, because like, you literally took money and wanted to like deny people their rights. Like, that's never going to be fucking cool with me, number one. And number two, listen, I hope that everyone does better. I hope for myself. I hope my ideals keep growing. I'm not faulting anyone for growing and evolving. But you have to admit that there was a problem first, right? So unless Lassen comes out and says, we were 100% wrong and we fucked up and we shouldn't have given that money, and, this is how much money we gave to that, we're going to turn around and give that money to, LGBTQIA organization, like, until that happens, fuck them. So let me just say that about Lassen's. But I think we live in the age, because of capitalism, of convenience. And my
Amazon.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get Amazon's my next one. My heart got really warm when you described me, when you said integrity, because that's the number one word I use when I talk about my ideologies. Is if there's one thing that I want people to take away from me or to say to me, or when I die, or to describe me to someone, that's the only thing I want them to describe me as that I have integrity. Like, you might disagree with me, you might think I'm wrong, but you can say that I live in my life with integrity. And so I think that we put too much thought in it. Coming back to Amazon, after seeing, well, a couple of things, then buying Whole Foods, I stopped. I was like, I can't anymore. I just, the amount of money that Amazon makes is obscene, period. And listen, if someone works hard and they grow assets out of that, I'm all for that. But if you make billions and billions and billions of dollars on the backs of working class people by not paying them a livable wage, by not giving them health insurance, by not providing safety, like COVID safety during this last year of the pandemic, not allowing people to take bathroom breaks, if that's how you're making your billions of dollars, you ain't a success story. Like, you're not. That it's a lie. And it's very interesting to me that people would rather protect the rights and sort of come to the aid of fucking billionaires just because they have some idea maybe they could be a billionaire one day themselves, than coming together as the working class. That really, I don't understand that. And so with Amazon, after seeing that they were making so much more money during a global pandemic, that their revenue increased, I was like, fuck it all. Delete. And I haven't purchased anything from Amazon or Whole Foods since. And guess what? Everything is a habit, and I don't even think about it anymore. It's like not an option. It's same thing with being vegan, like I said, I've been vegetarian since I was 13. Like, I have been, not eating meat longer than I did, right? And so when people ask me if I miss it, I'm like, I don't even remember. It's not even in my wheelhouse of what I remember. I mean, same thing with veganism. It's like, dude, I was vegan like so long ago when there was no choices. Like, vegan food was like Thai food, Indian food, and then like hippie shit. We were eating like tofu and like fucking bean sprouts. Like, are you kidding me? Like, being vegan now is the easiest fucking thing that you could do. Like, it's just, you can have anything you could, like, your wildest dreams could think of. Like, there's some fucking company or business or store or restaurant that makes it. And so to me, it's just habits. Like, it is a habit that you have to break. And once you break it, it's gone. You don't think about it. And so, I'm very much, an environmentalist. I try to be as much as zero waste as I possibly can be. And really what you're doing is, people think is like veganism, right? Or zero waste. You're limiting your life. You're limiting your life. You're limiting it. Actually, no, I'm living my values. I'm living in integrity. And as an anti-capitalist, I need less. And so, when you brought up the like, oh, I'm sure you research, you're reading all the labels and shit. Well, when I go to the like zero waste store, like, I already know everything that's in their fucking soap, and they carry 2 soaps. So I don't have to read fucking 1,000 labels or whatever. I just know that soap is cruelty free. It's like good to go. I know where it comes from. We've just been bombarded with so many choice with everything, right? Like, our attention is for sale all the time. And so if I'm not shopping at fucking Whole Foods, if I'm not shopping at fucking big box stores, I'm not inundated with choice. If I'm shopping local, you know, if I want my money to go to a working class person, to a person, right? Not to a CEO who's not doing fucking shit. I think that becomes, in my opinion, I think it becomes easier. Like I don't really have to think about veganism now. You know what I mean? It's like I'm locked in. I'm in that road. I don't have to. It's not an inconvenience anymore.
Awesome. It is. You're talking about abolitionists.
Oh, yes, I want to get that. Anti-capitalism and abolitionists. Yeah, I think when I talk about this, there's a few things I always want to make really clear. One, like I had mentioned, as a white person, I really am unapologetic about this. Like I'm really just like shoving it down people's throats, for lack of a better word. I just decided, you know, any of my activist friends, you know, that we've been in the streets for years, they know this is my ideology. This is not news to them. It's not surprising to them, but I have made a commitment to not shut up about it because it's so important to racial justice. Number one. Number two, you know, people always want to talk about abolitionism and like, what are we going to do with all the murderers and et cetera, et cetera. Someone has a gun in your face. Or a big one is like defunding the police, right? People like they don't like that. They don't like it. It makes them very scared. And I remember being at this march I was talking about earlier, when there was 100,000 people marching in the streets, and I remember having a conversation with my girlfriend that went with me, and she was like, you know, what is this march for? And I'm like, well, you know, it's the Black Lives Matter one. There's very clear things we want. Defunding the police is one of them. And I could see her physically like, whoa, I don't like that. Like, that doesn't make me feel safe. And she said that. She was very honest. And she was like, I'm not going to lie, that doesn't make me feel good or safe, or that makes me very nervous. And I said, okay, cool. Like, let's talk about that, you know? And in this moment, I need you to recognize that reaction and your white privilege. Like, Black people don't be feeling safe with police around, you know? So just that response in itself is very privileged. And with abolitionist work, like, we want new systems. We don't want to just live in this like free-for-all world where like there's no consequences. People just, it's Mad Max. You know, I think that's what people think when they hear that. It's like, it's Mad Max. People are just literally doing whatever they want. No. We want resources for the community to get to the root of the problems that are happening, right? Something I also really believe in is houseless advocacy. Something that I've been doing since I was, you know, very young with my moms. We would at Thanksgiving make food and go down to Skid Row. And a couple years ago, I started up a nonprofit to help the houseless in LA. And people always want to blame, you know, the people are lazy, they're drug addicts, but no one wants to address the roots of our houseless crisis. You know, they don't want to talk about how we don't have systems in place to help people before they get there. You know, another thing I believe really passionately is, you know, sort of the work around drug addiction. You know, my brother is an addict. He's an alcoholic and has been in and out of the system since he was 12. There is no systems in place to help addicts, but then we want to blame the addicts. You know, we don't blame people when they have depression, but we blame them when they're an addict. You know, that causes houselessness, and then we're going to blame the houseless person. So again, you know, Abolition Works wants to, we want programs that help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's get to the root of helping people. What helps people, you know, putting that money back into communities, to after school care, for all sorts of things that help families and people to survive in this world, and not, you know, toss them out to the wolves. In my opinion, we expect everyone to just fix their own problems when, like, there's larger things at play. You know, I'm a big advocate for harm reduction. You know, that work is really important. And until we get to the root of these problems, which abolition work is about getting to the root of what, you know, causes things such as houselessness, we're never going to change anything. So yeah, let's, abolition is about not Mad Max world. We're not going to live in a Mad Max world. It's about putting resources into communities and coming up with better systems that help communities grow.
Yeah, absolutely. But people respond to like some of these titles, right, that you'll like wear, and you say, you know, I'm for this.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they respond to them too, like with their ego and with their privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately there's like personal defensiveness, and you know what it, so that something that you're doing in this work that you're doing is like, it's an attack on me in some way. You're taking something away from me in some way.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the amount of times I was been called, you know, all sorts of things, like socialist when I was working on the Bernie campaign, and I'm just like, I don't like labels, and I think that's why I wasn't always like label beforehand, because I'm just like, my philosophy, a lot of my friends have heard me say this time and time again, is I'm just trying to be the least shitty person I can be. That's my ideology. That's what I'm passionate about. Whether it's, you know, whether it's what grocery store to shop at, you know, whether it's being vegan and animal rights, whether it's about our environment. Hi, surprise everyone. Like, we're burning up here. Like, we need to do things, and we need to do it fast, you know? Whether it's about where to put your money. Like, money is power, you know? This whole GameStop situation has, the younger generation, they have me feeling all the feels. They are so unapologetic. Fuck you, we're coming for you, fucking capitalists. I'm here for it, because I've been told most of my life that I was too extreme. I was too radical. I was too much. I was too idealistic. And this generation is just like, fuck you, we're coming for you. We're coming. And, you know, I'm here for it, because we can't, this experiment that's been going on in our country, it's failed. And we need different systems, and we need it fast, and we need it now. And we don't have time for these little bitty changes. Like, we don't have time for this. Like, we need to make big, bold actions to change shit now. And, you know, speaking about money, like, the GameStop situation reminded me of, you know, I was there for Occupy Wall Street. I was there for it. And I took out all of my money and have not had a big bank since. And I think that's, you know, another important thing is, like, get your fucking money out of Bank of America. Why are you funding, yes, you, watcher, viewer, anyone listening, why are you funding shit you don't believe in? Why are you, you know, funding these pipelines? Don't take your money out of fucking Bank of America. Take your money out of Wells Fargo. Get a credit union. And I'm always that friend. You know, people are like, I'm thinking about getting a credit union. Great. Like, let me help you. Let's find one that's close to you, that's easiest for you. Because, like, you know, as being an anti-capitalist, I'm not fond of that system, obviously, but money has power. And you have power in every dollar you spend. And that includes, like, where it goes. Who's it going to? You know, like what message are you trying to put out into the world? And I'm always just trying to be an example. You know, I had someone tell me kind of like jokingly, sort of making, you know, light of it, making fun of me, because I would always be, you know, the girl with all their shit, the tote bag with the like reusable glass and the coffee thing and the utensils and the napkin and the thing. And they're just like, oh my God, Aubrie, you think you're like saving the world with your fucking wooden fork and your, you know, your reusable straw? And I said, listen, I'm all about like taking down corporations. Yes. But also too, again, I'm just trying to be the least shittiest person I can be. And so no, I'm not going to use the plastic fork. Like I'm not going to don't do it. Just bring your fucking like reusable utensil. Like it just comes down to like, what example do you want to be in the world? What kind of change do you want to show people, you know? Because I definitely have inspired more people in all of my years, no matter what it was, environmentalism, animal rights, racial justice. I've inspired more people and empowered more people by being an example, by leading my full integrity of how I feel, than lecturing people. No one wants a lecture. No one wants to be told like, hey bro, maybe don't fucking use that plastic straw. The sea turtle, Gus, will thank you for it, you know? Like, no, it strikes up conversations, you know? Like, I'm all about that. Like, let's get down and dirty and have like real heartfelt conversations, you know? And speaking of, is it, you know, here I'm wearing one today. Least amount of harm. I'm really big about wearing, starting last summer, wearing exclusively like statement pieces, because I got a real reaction to this sweatshirt I made that says FBI killed Fred Hampton. I get stopped every single time I wear that. Every single time people are like, fuck yeah, in the grocery store. They want to get down about the Black Panthers. And it sparks this real genuine, heartfelt like moment in the world that I love. And so that, again, you know, I was just telling a kid that I ran into at the Kitchen Mouse grocery store, you know, this young Black kid who was like, oh my gosh, thank you for wearing that. And then we started talking about revolutionary work. And I'm like, you my people, where are people? And like I said, as a white person, I have to use, and I want to use, every ounce of privilege I have to be in the direction of making shit better, right? And so why am I gonna, you're a walking billboard, everything you do. And so like, why not use that, get creative and how you can use what you have to change the world in the trajectory we want to. And we have it every day. Every choice we make, we're making a choice of what world we want to live in. I want to live in a really great, awesome, non-shitty, anti-capitalist, abolitionist world, you know? I'm here for it. So let's do it. And let's have the conversations that get us there.
Well, we want you to offer us some programs.
You know, I know everyone wants to offer, and they want the programs, they want the podcast. Okay, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. Because I do think that there's a lot of people that are more ready for this work. I mean, I don't even have to think it. Like, there's so many people that are ready and that don't have the experience, and that there's a lot of, you know, we were talking about knowledge, and it's like there's all of this knowledge that is required right now. And what we were all being shown in the summer, it was different for everyone, but there was some part of something that happened last year for everyone that showed you, you know what, like, this is something that you do not know about. Like, this is something that is very real, that is, you know, and there's people from all the different, whatever subject we're talking about, like all the different sides, even with politics and everything. It's like everybody is reacting to being shown information or learning information or realizing things that they didn't know before, and then they're having a reaction to it. And so I think that people are really ready, and people are ready to be directed, and people are ready to read, and they're ready to ingest, and they're ready to participate. And so I absolutely think, you know, someone like you, I know that you're doing your book clubs. Is that something that you offer, that people can just like find you and say, hey, I want to be part of your book club?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything, all my things, anyone's welcome. This month around, it included my new friend Ray, who, if I had this right, he found me through my business. So I own a pet care business, and when everything started to happen, I made a real a very distinctive choice in my business. And I drew the line in the sand, and I was like, hey, this is who I am as an owner. Social justice is much a part of me, and it's going to be much as part as my business. And I just started posting everything that was happening, everything that was going on, how people get involved, where they can go, what groups, and I lost clients. Don't care. Don't want a racist client. If you're bye. But I think what happened is one of my clients shared some post I did, and then so he found me through there, and so I don't even know him in real life. He lives on the East Coast, and I welcome new people with open arms. Come, we need you. We need everyone in the movement, in making change, in what you feel passionate about. I'm really glad, that there's this huge awakening, and I want everyone to be empowered, that they can make change. I just want people to take care of themselves. I offer this to, people sort of new. Activist burnout is a real thing. And I think it is imperative to be doing self-work in tandem with activism. Number one. Number two, it's lifelong work. And so, I like to tell my friends, you just have to get used to losing. I know that's people don't want to hear that, but if you're in it for the long haul, you have to know, you just get up tomorrow and you do it tomorrow. You have to know that it's things aren't just going to change. They're not going to change overnight. These are systems that have been in place for hundreds of years. And so if you're really committed to the work, take care of yourself so you can show up from now until forever.
This is why having guidance and having a community and all of that stuff is really helpful. Tell us how we can find you. So at the very least, people can follow your social media and just see what it is that you're sharing, what it is that you're suggesting from that point. They can contact you and then get involved in your book club. I want to be in your book club.
Yes. And when this podcast, when I start this podcast, everyone wants me to start. I'll post it on there. Sure.
Yeah. Well, she's going to come over and we're going to have a session, and we're just, going to get you going. Cause it's the time
Technology.
for it. Oh no, it's all the younger kids know how to do it. It's just takes a little bit of work for those of us that are just a little bit older than those ones that just, know how to do it. But, this is the thing is we can all see from the summer how everyone was ready to post and march and, share everything that they were sharing. And it was awesome. And it was amazing. And then it tapers off like everything, but it's not that there's not people that are out there that are doing the work. There's just so many people that this is new for. And it does take getting into it. It takes getting your body into it. It takes reading. It takes showing up and marching. It takes going to groups and listening. It takes more than just signing up for the emails and having all these emails in the inbox. You kind of just stop reading because everybody's emailing you at the same time. And so I'm saying this, and I'm saying this to you, I would be in your program. I want to be in your book club because this is something that you're passionate about and you have knowledge about all of this stuff, kind of the way that it works. And so you're able to provide perspective and you're able to provide information, and you're also then therefore able to provide a community. And we all have different people that we need to learn from. There's all different teachers. And so then having a podcast, you can definitely have be interviewing different people that are different, like courses that you've taken or different, and all of it. So what I was originally trying to say with what it is I'm saying right now is like, people are hungry for it now, and it's in their awareness now. Mm-hmm. And people need every place that it can be available for them to say yes. Mm-hmm. It needs to be there. And and we're all motivated by different things, and so we all teach different things. Like, this work that you do, this is not what I teach, and I need people like you. That I can ask the questions. I mean, every time that we get around, when we need to be voting and everything, you better believe that I'm checking in with Aubrie, and I'm like, hey, I've been so wrapped up in teaching this and doing these other things, and the things that are important to me. I need to know what's going on, and where can I research so that I'm prepared to show up and do my part. So
I definitely have gotten frantic texts from lots of people.
I'm at the voting place.
Yeah. Where's my voting place?
Yeah.
Voter guides. I mean, the amount of voter guides I've sent, over the last, I don't know how many years, and it's not, listen, that's not where my heart lives. I think electoral politics are like not where I'm the most passionate about. Yeah. It's just one tool. It's just one tool in the toolbox, and we got to use all the tools, right? Like, liberation just doesn't come this one little avenue. And so you just have to find, I think the biggest thing that I tell people that are new to it, or they want my advice, is just, we all have things that we're passionate about. And I'm always happy to answer questions and sort of facilitate people to, like, is animal rights your thing? Like, I know organizations, I know people, like, is, environmental, is, immigrant rights, is queer rights. Like, find what's in your heart, what makes you alive. And like, that can be your activism. Like, just everyone has that, the thing inside of them that's just like, yes, this, and then surround yourself with people who are different from you. Surround yourself with people, because you want to learn, if your passion isn't environmentalism, then you can have someone in your circle who is, so you're educated about it, right? Or if you don't know about queer rights, then you have people in your life that are educating you about that, because we can't all do everything. Like, I want to be very clear that all of our choices are a form of activism, but we can't do everything. I get texts all the time from my activist friends. It's like, oh my God, I can't make it to that action. Oh my God, I feel so bad. Oh my God. Like, listen, if you are in it for a lifetime, you're not going to be able to do everything. It's humanly impossible. Like, you're just not. And something that I actually have written up in my room, right over to the right of me, is I always think of Angela Davis's quote, freedom is a constant struggle. Like, it's just, you have to accept that with activism work. Like, that's why self-help is, self-care is so important. And I don't mean self-care of like, oh, run a bubble bath. That's great. Bubble baths are awesome. Massages, great, awesome. But I'm talking about the ugly fucking work in self-care. I'm talking about like therapy, right? I'm talking about like taking classes, of which I've done, on conflict resolution, on effective communicating. Like, that is the fucking self-care people don't want to talk about, but it's imperative to being a better activist and being an activist lifelong. Because, I've definitely gotten to the age where I've seen people come and go. And like, to bring it sort of full circle of what I was talking about earlier, we need a lot more people doing one thing than a small amount of people trying to do it all. So don't think like, oh my God, I have to do it all. You don't. Like, it's not sustainable. And we want people here in the movement taking action for the long haul. So you got to be thinking about all these different pieces in that journey.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I have Aubrey's IG handle in the show notes, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's at Aubrie Marie Davis.
It is.
Spell it for us.
AubrieMarieDavis.
And as soon as she's got her podcast going and any programs that she's offering, I'm going to drop all that information here in the show notes and on YouTube. If there's anything like, thank you for sharing all of this with us. It's so much. And it's really important. And if you have anything to like leave us with, or if there's like,
I do. I have a quote because I love quotes. I have notebooks of quotes. It is a quote from Bell Hooks, and it is, "Love is an action." That's it. Love is an action.
Somewhat intense action sometimes.
Usually, I would say. It is. It is.
Yeah. People don't realize that there's someone fighting for their rights all the time. The freedoms that we have, the freedoms that so many of us don't have to even think twice about that. It's because there's somebody that's fighting for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So thank you so much for coming here and for teaching us and sharing with us all of your experience. I do hope everyone that's here follows you and checks out what's going on. And you're going to come over and I'm going to teach you some things about how to get a program together and online and out there and how to get your podcast going.
The microphone and the cords and the things and the...
Yeah, all of it. You know what? If I can do it...
I'm being malleable. I'm being malleable. That doesn't... I'm not a techie person. I'm not a person that likes all the... I'm just not. I'm always like, can we go back to the 1990s when we didn't have social media and we called each other and wrote letters? But I also don't want to become one of those older people that's like, oh, I can't. Is just so stuck in their ways. And so I'm pushing myself to learn, keep learning.
Just creating these new pathways in the brain, because I'm definitely not techie. And this is the thing. I'm like, if I have managed to figure out how to do this, then I can definitely at least show somebody else how to do it. And this is part of it. This is part of the technology, is that we can have this here, is that you can have group classes and things with this. I'm sure this is exactly how you're doing your book club, but you can have group classes where everybody's at home and or on their phone or on the computer. And that's the one great thing that's happened from this experience that we had this past summer, is that everyone learned how to be able to stay connected and stay educated and stay engaged while, having to stay at home and, not be hanging around each other and all of that. And so in some ways, I feel like it has allowed for a focus on education. The people who are taking responsibility for their role in their life, even just if it's in their own personal life, I think we've also all been given that opportunity to really up our game, clean our shit up, get clear on what it is that we're supposed to be doing. How am I, what is my role in this? Has my role been, not paying attention to that, or living in my privilege and not taking responsibility for maybe how I'm causing harm by where I have my money or the store that I'm shopping at, just especially living here in LA, it's just easy. It's just really easy to just play into all these systems the way that they are. And it's not like anybody's going to be perfect. The longer that you practice, the better at anything that you do, right? It's an easier practice, but you're going to slip up, you're going to, whatever, you just, you acknowledge, okay, actually that's not the way that I want to be behaving and speaking and where I want to be putting my money and all of that. So I think it's a really powerful time for everyone to re-examine their belief systems and what it is that they're doing. And now, everybody's talking about the Great Reset is a gift. It's a gift. And we're really able to make change if we want to. And there's a large amount of people who are aware. And so anyway, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming here. I'm going to send so many people your way, and
my pleasure.
We need you. I need you. We need each other for the work that we do.
We need each other, for sure.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you for watching. Please go find Aubrie on Instagram. You can find this podcast on iTunes and Spotify and Anchor FM. You can listen to all the past podcasts. You can go to jaimeblack.com to just check out any of the other offerings that I have going on. And with that, we will see you next Sunday night for the podcast. And I hope you all have a great week. And bye, Aubrie. So much love to you.